So we're going to have the different types. I'm going to avoid using specific rotations because it depends on the rig and the program. So for example, Blender is going to be a different rotation order. So you've got the spin. Typically in Maya, that's the rotate Y. That's pretty simple. The rotate Y of the hips moves with the legs. So as you, let's actually just go full screen here. As your leg goes forward, the hips go forward as well. The same with your arms. If I reach forward here, my body goes forward in that direction. That's it. That's really all it does. It moves with the legs. Nice. So that's the spin. Rotate Y in Maya. Rotate X is pretty simple. So rotate X, that's the forward back motion here. In a walk cycle, there's almost none of it because our body is made, unless you're doing a really cartoony walk, our body is made to support itself. It's made to sit up straight. Our spine is not made to just bend and flow and like pop around. So when we're walking, our spine stays pretty straight. We lean forward slightly, so you're going to get a little bit of rotate X that way. And then that's it. You just keep going. So it just leans forward and that's all that you need. If you start adding a lot of this in your walks, you can try this yourself. Just sit there and do this for a little bit. You're going to find it gets very hard to breathe very quickly because essentially what's happening is you're compressing your lungs. That's not a good way to walk. So rotate X, pretty simple. It almost very rarely has much in there for a vanilla style walk. Now, the big thing that comes in play is the rotate Z, which is the tilt of the character. And this is where you will typically have two styles of walk. You're going to have a lazy walk and an energetic walk. And essentially, those terms are just ways of describing a walk where our body is using less energy and a walk where our body is using more energy. So for example, a lazy walk, essentially when you raise your leg up, let me draw a little bit bigger here. So we've got our leg right here. And I'm just going to make my brush size a little bit bigger. As I lift up this leg here, the hips are going to drop down on that side because we're trying to use less energy. The way you can think about it is think of a block of wood supported by two other blocks of wood right here. And then you remove one of the blocks of wood right there. Tiny little eraser. There we go. What's going to happen? It's going to drop because it's got no support on that side. That's what our hips are doing right here. They drop because they're not supported, and they'll only come back up once that foot comes down and the body weight pushes down, and then that puts a new support under this side and pushes it back up. That's pretty much it. And it is like the lazy walk is the most common method in animation, mostly because it's energy efficient. A lot of people tend to walk in that lazy way. It should be called energy efficient way, but lazy is just shorter and easier to write. Plus it just sounds cooler for some reason. Now an energetic walk is when we put energy into the step. So as the character is taking a step here, you're going to have the body, the foot on the ground here, the foot up in the air. The hip is going to raise up on that side. So we're going to get something more like this as that foot is passing through right here. Now, the way you can kind of think about this is imagine your character is trying to step up on a big box right here. So there's a big giant box and they're trying to step up on this box there. Huge step. Is that hip going to drop down on that side? No, that would make no sense. They're trying to raise their leg as high as possible and their hips are going to drop down on that side. All it's going to do is create this weird zigzag pattern in there. No. It's going to go up like so to help that leg. And the same thing with us. If I'm going to reach up to the top shelf to get the cookie jar because I really want those cookies, I'm not going to be doing this to reach up. That shoulder is down while the arm reaches up. That makes no sense. I'm going to be doing this I tilt in the way to help that arm raise up. That's an energetic walk. Our hips are raising on the side to help lift that leg higher. You'll see this in like big happy walks, big kind of marching or stomping kind of walks, even sneaks. As you're trying to walk really carefully, you're going to have that body helping that leg to move forward and raise up off of the ground. So that's really the two big walks that you're going to be dealing with. Now, the big thing when you're dealing with these walks, and all of this changes, especially when you go into really big personality walks and cartoony walks, but this is kind of the general thing that you can base everything off of. The other thing to keep in mind is that rotation change when the body goes from one side to the other. So when it rotates back the other way here, is usually going to be between the contact pose and the down pose, or the pose after the contact. So you hit the contact pose, and then the pose after the contact, that's when you get the big reversal, one way or the other.